$150 million. That's the deal that made Will Anderson Jr. the highest-paid non-quarterback in NFL history, and it's sending shockwaves across the league. Some of the biggest NFL stars are already pushing for new record contracts, and front offices are under serious pressure as the entire salary market starts to shift. So in this video, we break down how we got here and why this deal could change everything. On April 17, 2026, news broke that sent shockwaves through the football world. Will Anderson Jr. agreed to a 3-year, $150 million contract extension with the Houston Texans, and that number sits unlike anything a defensive player has ever seen. The extension includes $134 million in guaranteed money. The deal also includes a no-trade clause, and at $50 million per year, Anderson becomes the highest-paid non-quarterback in NFL history. For context, think about what that means. The $50 million per year Anderson will earn surpasses the $46.5 million per year defensive end Micah Parsons got. When he signed a 4-year extension with the Packers after a trade from Dallas last year, Anderson didn't just edge past the record, he blew the door off it. A $3.5 million per year jump at the top of the market for a position that isn't quarterback is staggering, and it tells you everything about what kind of player Anderson is and what kind of statement Houston is making. Now look at Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes signed a 10-year, $450 million contract with the Kansas City Chiefs, including a $10 million signing bonus, $141,481,905 guaranteed, and an average annual salary of $45 million. That deal, when it was signed in July 2020, was the largest contract in professional sports history. It was supposed to stand as a monument for the better part of a decade. But football economics don't wait for anyone. Anderson, by average annual value, will now earn more than some of the most recognizable names in the league, including Matthew Stafford, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, and even Chiefs star Patrick Mahomes. Read that again. A defensive end, a pass rusher, is now making more money per year than the 3-time Super Bowl MVP quarterback who defined an era. Mahomes' AAV now sits tied for 14th among QBs. When he signed that deal 6 years ago, he was the highest paid player on the planet. Now a 24-year-old defensive end who has been in the league for 3 seasons is out-earning him. But here's the part that makes this story something more than contract numbers on a spreadsheet. Mahomes suffered a season-ending torn ACL in his left knee in the closing minutes of a loss to the Chargers, a result that ended Kansas City's playoff hopes. The Chiefs missed the playoffs with a 6-11 record. The dynasty, 3 Super Bowls in 5 years, 5 consecutive AFC Championship appearances, the most dominant run in modern football, hit a wall, and the quarterback who built it all was wheeled into surgery in Dallas. And the team that helped put him there, the team whose defense forced him into turnovers, sacked him, pressured him, and made his life miserable on 2 separate occasions during the 2025 season. That was Houston. That was Will Anderson. To understand why $150 million for a defensive end makes sense, you have to understand what Will Anderson did to earn it. This isn't a team throwing money at potential. This is a team paying for production that was undeniable. Anderson totaled 54 combined tackles, 20 tackles for losses, and a career-high 12 sacks over 17 starts last season. He also totaled career highs in passes defense with 3, forced fumbles with 3, and fumble recoveries with 2, including 1 for a score. Those are numbers that jump off the page even before you dig into the context behind them. But the context is what turns good numbers into legendary ones. Among defenders with at least 150 run defensive snaps, he ranked 7th in run stop rate at 12.6%, 3rd in run stuffs with 13, and 2nd in pressures with 85, according to Next Gen Stats. That is comprehensive dominance. Anderson wasn't just beating blockers off the edge and chasing quarterbacks. He was stopping the run, disrupting the passing game, and collapsing pockets with a ferocity and consistency that placed him in the conversation for the best defensive player in football. His performance placed him 2nd in Defensive Player of the Year voting, behind Cleveland Browns defensive end Myles Garrett, who broke the NFL's single-season sack record with 23 sacks. Anderson finished 2nd to a man who had a historically unprecedented season. Garrett posted a number that many people thought was unreachable, and even so, Anderson was right there in the conversation. And then there's what he did against the league's best quarterbacks. The Texans forced the Los Angeles Chargers' Justin Herbert, Buffalo Bills' Josh Allen, Kansas City Chiefs' Patrick Mahomes, and Seattle Seahawks' Sam Darnold into a combined 8 turnovers. In those matchups, Anderson made an impact, totaling 4 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, and a forced fumble, which he recovered in the end zone for a touchdown against the Seahawks. When Anderson faced Pro Bowl caliber quarterbacks, he didn't shrink, he elevated. He turned marquee matchups into personal showcases. The entire Texans defense operated as a suffocating, relentless unit. The Texans allowed the second fewest points per game at 17.4, and the fewest yards per game at 277.2 last season, making their mark by terrorizing opposing Pro Bowl-level quarterbacks. Houston's defense wasn't just good. It was the best in the league by yardage, and at the tip of the spear was Anderson. Throughout the postseason, Anderson logged a combined 3 forced fumbles and 3.5 combined sacks against the Pittsburgh Steelers and New England Patriots, which ultimately led the entire NFL within the playoffs for both stats. When the games mattered most, when it was January and every snap carried the weight of a season, Anderson was at his absolute peak. He was the most disruptive force on the field during the Texans' playoff run, and opposing offenses had no answer. Through 3 seasons, he's amassed 30 sacks, 2 Pro Bowl appearances, the 2023 Defensive Rookie of the Year award, and a first-team All-Pro nod last year, while finishing second in the Defensive Player of the Year voting to Myles Garrett. All of that from a player who was just 24 years old. All of that from a player who had been earning a rookie salary while doing the work of a $50 million per year player. Houston looked at those numbers, looked at the trajectory, and decided they weren't going to let anyone else get a chance to pay Anderson what he's worth. While Anderson was building his case for a historic payday, the Kansas City Chiefs were watching their empire collapse in real time. The 2025 season was supposed to be another coronation. After reaching 5 of the past 6 Super Bowls and winning 3 championships, Mahomes and the Chiefs entered the year with the expectation of, at minimum, another deep playoff run. What they got was the furthest thing from it. Mahomes' injury during the Chiefs' Week 15 loss to the Los Angeles Chargers was a brutal, if premature, end to a brutal season by Kansas City standards. After reaching 5 of the past 6 Super Bowls and winning 3, the Chiefs were 6-8 and already eliminated from the playoffs. That sentence alone reads like fiction. The Chiefs eliminated before Christmas. The rot had been setting in all year. For many reasons this season, a lack of execution, the defense not getting off the field late, and kicker Harrison Butker missing a career-high 8 field goals. The Chiefs suffered 7 one-score losses. The Chiefs' 1-7 record in one-score games this season ranks last in the league. The year before, Kansas City won 11 one-score games, the most in a single campaign in league history. The swings were staggering. The regression was total. The Houston Texans were part of that collapse. The Kansas City Chiefs were in must-win mode against the Houston Texans as they fought for a playoff spot, but quarterback Patrick Mahomes and the offense seemingly didn't get the memo as they lost 20-10. Anderson and that Texans defense smothered the Chiefs. Mahomes finished with 160 yards and 3 interceptions on 14 of 33 passing. It was one of the worst statistical games of his career. The man who had spent years terrorizing defenses was reduced to a shell of himself against Houston's front, and Anderson was a central reason why. Then, a week later, came the devastating blow. Against the Chargers, Mahomes scrambled out of the pocket, threw the ball, and felt his left knee buckle. Once Mahomes planted his left foot and threw the ball away for an incompletion, his left knee buckled. After he fell to the turf, Mahomes immediately grabbed his left knee and winced in pain. The MRI confirmed the worst-case scenario, a torn ACL, season over, career at a crossroads. The 10-year playoff streak was the second longest in NFL history behind the Patriots' 11-year run from 2009-19. This was the first time in Mahomes' 9-year career that he would not participate in the postseason. Think about that for a moment. In 9 years as a professional, Mahomes had never once experienced the postseason from his couch. Now he was there on crutches, watching the Houston Texans march through January. With the defense that had just made history, Mahomes posted on social media after the injury. He wrote, "Don't know why this had to happen, and not going to lie, it hurts. But all we can do now is trust in God and attack every single day over and over again. Thank you, Chiefs Kingdom, for always supporting me and for everyone who has reached out and sent prayers. I will be back stronger than ever." Those words, "I will be back stronger than ever," carry a different weight now, with Anderson's $150 million contract stamped across every sports headline in America. The Texans didn't just throw money at Anderson because the market dictated it. This deal was the culmination of a deliberate, aggressive, defense-first philosophy. that Houston general manager Nick Caserio has been building for years. Anderson arrived in Houston in epic draft day fashion in 2023. The Texans drafted quarterback C.J. Stroud with the 2nd overall pick, then traded up with the Arizona Cardinals to acquire the 3rd overall pick and select Anderson. To move up, Houston paid a hefty price by trading the 12th overall pick, the 33rd overall pick, a 1st-round pick in 2024, and a 3rd rounder in 2024. That was a massive investment of draft capital, and the Texans have never looked back. Since Anderson and Stroud arrived, Houston is 32-19 in the regular season, with 3 playoff wins and 2 AFC South titles. What Houston has done is remarkably unusual in today's NFL. 3 years later, they have paid the edge rusher before they have paid the quarterback. The team built around defense first and quarterback second. That sequencing is now formalized in the contract structure. Most teams in the NFL operate with the quarterback as the foundational piece, the first domino, the player whose extension dictates everything else. Houston flipped that model upside down. Over the past 12 months, the Texans have now paid 3 defensive stars top of market money, including fellow edge rusher Danielle Hunter at $40 and $1 million in 2026, and cornerback Derek Stingley Jr. at $90 million over 3 years in new money. The Texans also made Kaimi Fairbairn the highest-paid kicker with a 2-year, $13 million contract extension. They didn't stop at one record-breaking deal. They stacked them. They kept locking up their own players, one after another, building a defensive infrastructure that is designed to dominate for half a decade. But there's a fascinating tension within this strategy. Can the Texans win by continuing to load up and pay up on defense when the offense can't do its part? Despite ranking 2nd in scoring defense, with the league's best edge tandem in Anderson and Hunter, the Texans fell 28-16 in Foxborough because of 5 turnovers, including 4 interceptions by Stroud. Houston's defensive spending has been breathtaking, but the offense, particularly Stroud's inconsistency in the playoffs, is the elephant in the room. As the defense is getting paid record-setting numbers, the offense is getting virtually nothing in comparison. After 3 years of service, quarterback C.J. Stroud is extension eligible, but he's far likelier to see his 5th-year option picked up after an inconsistent 2025, including committing 7 turnovers in 2 playoff games. This is the gamble. Houston is betting that a historically dominant defense, anchored by Anderson, can compensate for whatever their quarterback can or can't do. It's a strategy that has worked in spurts throughout NFL history. The 2000 Ravens, the 2002 Buccaneers, the 2015 Broncos, but rarely for sustained championship runs. The Texans legend who once wore the mantle Anderson now carries weight in. Texans legend J.J. Watt reacted to the deal. Watt said, "I would be extremely happy for him and grateful I got to witness it. It would be very naive and narcissistic of me to think that nobody should or could ever be better." The sport is constantly evolving, and athletes continue to reset the limits of what we believe to be possible. It would be thoroughly disappointing if new heights were never achieved. From a man who won 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards for that same franchise, that endorsement is about as powerful as it gets. And now we arrive at the heart of it all. The thing that gives this story its edge, its stakes, and its goosebumps. Patrick Mahomes is watching. He is recovering from a torn ACL and LCL. Mahomes said, "Rehab's going great so far, hitting all the checkpoints. I want to be ready for week 1. That's my goal. And have no restrictions." No restrictions. Week 1. A man who tore ligaments in his knee 4 months ago is not talking about easing back in. He's not talking about a cautious return. He's talking about being fully operational on day 1 of the 2026 season. And here's why Anderson's contract makes that message so chilling. The Chiefs, who missed the playoffs in 2025 after reaching the Super Bowl in each of the 3 previous seasons, created $43.65 million in cap space by restructuring Mahomes' deal. For now, the cap savings are vital to the Chiefs, who are coming off their first losing season in over a decade, and face decisions on multiple high-priced veteran players. Kansas City has been dismantling and rebuilding. The 2025 collapse wasn't just a bad season, it was a trigger for a full organizational reset. New pieces, new energy, and a returning quarterback with something he hasn't had in years. A chip on his shoulder the size of Arrowhead Stadium. Mahomes has watched the Texans, the team that embarrassed him in December, the team whose defense held him to 160 passing yards and 3 picks, the defense that Will Anderson anchors, spend $150 million to ensure they can keep tormenting him for the next 5 years. The Texans' aggressive draft day trade to secure Anderson continues to pay dividends as he consistently disrupts elite quarterbacks such as Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Justin Herbert. But history tells us something about Mahomes that the Houston Texans and the rest of the AFC should consider very carefully. Just like Mahomes, Tom Brady, in the first game of the 2008 season, tore an ACL 9 years into his career, with 3 Super Bowls under his belt. Brady returned and the Patriots continued to evolve around him, setting up a run to 5 more Super Bowls and 3 more championships. The Brady comparison isn't lazy or convenient. It's precise. Brady's ACL tear came in the middle of a dynasty. He came back and won even more than he had before. The injury didn't end his era. It reset it. Now consider the financial implications. Anderson making $50 million per year as a defensive end, more than Mahomes' $45 million AAV, actually benefits Kansas City in a twisted way. On the books, Mahomes is still ranked 8th at $45 million AAV for the 10-year, $450 million contract extension he signed in 2020. While other teams are paying non-quarterbacks $50 million, paying corners $33 million, paying edge rushers $46 million, the Chiefs have the best quarterback in football at a relative discount. Yes, the cap mechanics are complicated, and the restructures have pushed money into future years, but the raw calculation remains. Patrick Mahomes costs less per year than Will Anderson. That asymmetry is the kind of thing championships are built on. The Chiefs hope to have Travis Kelce back for 2026 and plan to talk with the TE following Super Bowl X. If Kelce returns, the Chiefs get back the greatest tight end in football history, alongside a quarterback who just spent 9 months doing nothing but rehabbing, studying film, and building rage. The NFL loves storylines, and the one forming here is impossible to ignore. On one side, you have a Houston Texans organization that just made a 24-year-old defensive end the richest non-quarterback in football history, betting their entire future on the idea that defense wins championships. With Anderson now secured as the face of the defense, the Texans have made it clear. They are building for long-term success and positioning themselves as a consistent force in the AFC. On the other side, you have Patrick Mahomes, 3-time Super Bowl champion, 2-time MVP, the most accomplished quarterback of his generation, coming off the worst season of his career and a devastating injury, looking at Will Anderson's payday and saying just 4 words, "I will be back." Those 4 words are the most dangerous thing in football right now. Anderson just got $150 million to stop quarterbacks, but the quarterback he most needs to stop is a man who has never stayed down. After becoming the Chiefs' starting quarterback in 2018, Mahomes led the team to 7 consecutive AFC Championship game appearances and 5 Super Bowl appearances, winning 3. He is one of only 5 quarterbacks in NFL history to win 3 or more Super Bowls as a starter. Houston paid for a weapon. Kansas City is reloading an arsenal, and the man at the center of that arsenal, the man who turned a franchise into a dynasty and is now rebuilding it from a hospital bed, just told the world that he's coming back with no restrictions and no fear. Whether Anderson's $150 million can withstand the force of a healthy, motivated, rested, and angry Patrick Mahomes is the question that will define the 2026 NFL season. And if history is any guide, the smart money is on Mahomes.